This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle Academy, where filmmakers and screenwriters go to learn from top Hollywood industry professionals. Learn more at ifhacademy.com. I'd like to welcome to the show Jen McGowan. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jen.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. Now, I've had many female directors on before, but we are going to get into some deep stuff today.
Oh shit! Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be hopefully educational to everybody listening. But
Am I gonna feel like I sat in an hour-long therapy session? Is that what's gonna happen?
I think it's gonna be. If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you? No.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So first of all, how did you get into the business?
Well, so my mom's a nurse. Mm-hmm. My dad worked for the government. I grew up in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington D.C.
So Hollywood all the way. Got it.
Yeah, totally. And I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And my parents were like, as long as you can feed yourself and pay your bills, awesome. Luckily, in high school, I took some acting classes and I was good. And the instructor, she really encouraged me. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll do this. Mm-hmm. So I applied to NYU. I applied to a bunch of schools. I got into NYU. And I went and I studied acting at the Atlantic Theater Company through NYU's Tisch School of the Arts.
Sure.
I was there from 1994 to 97. Mm-hmm. And, when I got out, I needed to earn a living. So that small, detail.
We're artists.
People to leave out of their biographies.
We're just artists.
Rich and famous.
We're just rich and famous. They just be the famous, but the rich part they forget about.
Yeah. I forgot about how that I was born. So I got a job at a commercial production company as a receptionist. Mm-hmm. It was a day job. I don't care what it was. Mm-hmm. And that was very fortunate because it exposed me to some type of filmmaking. Mm-hmm. So, that was, let's see, I graduated NYU when I was 20. So it was 20 where it first even occurred to me that was something I'd be interested in. Mm-hmm. And again, I was, that was my day job. I was making money, shitty money, but money. Mm-hmm. And, foraging things away. And while I was auditioning as an actor and I was getting little shitty roles that were super lame. And I was like, oh, this sucks. This sucks.
A lot of student projects?
Student projects, off Broadway, just.
So like Virginia off Broadway, like you were in Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. Like Idaho.
Off Broadway. Got it.
But also the roles were like super lame. I was like this sweet little, or I looked like a sweet little 100-pound 20-year-old, fair complexion, red hair. I got all these nice girl roles, these girl next door roles. And I was like, oh, this is awful. Of course, looking back now, honestly, that's what a lot of women's roles amount to, is these nice girl wives supporting. I didn't know that at the time. I just thought, fuck this sucks.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to make something on my own. I thought, I saw people making stuff. I can probably figure that out. So I made my first short film when I was 20, 21. It was on 16 millimeter film.
Wow.
I got Panavision to donate a camera. I got Kodak to give me film and, took over an apartment or two for a weekend. And the film was horrible, but I loved it. I was like, that for me, that was my Goldilocks moment. I loved every moment from conception to screening. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. And I went to film school.
So then you did a handful of shorts. And how do you go from doing a handful of shorts to directing an Academy Award nominee?
Gosh, shit. When you put it like that, it sounds really good.
It does. No, because you literally went like, I did a couple short films. It was really not that good. But then your first feature is...
No. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
The first one was not that good.
Okay. The first one, no, that's what I meant. But that's where you stopped. So I don't know I don't know what else is left. I don't know if you just went straight from a bad short film to directing an Oscar nominee.
Right. That's not the whole
So
story.
You need to continue going.
I applied to film school. I got into USC. Mm-hmm. studied directing through the MFA program there. And something that I was really fortunate, again, look, I'm a really fucking hard worker, but I'm also really lucky. And I say that, especially, you know, as your audience is curious about learning about the industry. As you go through your career, you will meet people who are more talented than you, who are more skilled than you, who have better connections than you. They might not be the ones that end up rising to the top. It doesn't mean that you're better than them. It just means that it didn't happen. So that's why I you know, yes, I'm really hardworking and I hustle. And I think I'm pretty good at what I do too, but I'm also really lucky. So to that, you know, I got into film school. I went to film school. You know, because I was paying with student loans, I tried to stay for as short as I possibly could. I knew I only wanted to direct, so I didn't take any classes that weren't directing. I took all the extra classes that let me make stuff. And that was a total strategy. I got to the end of my thesis project, and I was like, okay, I've got a full semester of critical studies classes to take. If my thesis film does well, I'm out of here. And if it doesn't, I'll stay, take that semester, and I'll make something else, hopefully better. Right. And so my thesis film got into Tribeca, and I was like, I'm out. So I had a whole semester of courses left that I was like, no way, dude, that's like 30 grand. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
So that was my first short film, you know, proper short film.
Sure.
Then I did another film called Touch, which was really the thing that opened all the doors for me. That film is a very simple film. It's two women standing on a train platform. You can find it online. I can give you the link. It did incredibly well. It went to over 100 film festivals around the world, won most of them. And that one of the wins was the Florida Film Festival, which then qualifies you for the Oscar.
Right.
Which I did not get.
Yes.
Did not even get into the last 10. I was so bummed.
All right.
But I did get the attention of some producers who, at the time, I was pushing a project forward, which was this script called Kelly and Cal. And, you know, my background with my family, I don't really have any contacts except for whoever I made while I was working. And I was like, I'm gonna get this film made. I'm gonna find the money for this film. And I just basically knocked on every door that was appropriate. I mean, that's really important when you
explain that. Okay.
Here's my general rule of thumb. I do not ask for something from a stranger or any cold call type of situation that is not going to benefit them. It's just that's the language of this business. I will ask a friend. I will ask a family member. But when you're getting into business relationships, it has to be win-win. So that means asking the appropriate person. So, for example, when I was trying to get Kelly and Cal made, I spoke to a friend of mine and my husband's. So same age, not like, you know, whatever. And he's a manager. And he oversees a lot of big studio superhero movies. And I was asking him his advice, and he was like, I have no idea how these little movies get made. None.
Yeah. I've spoken to many of these big studio guys that they, like you say, I made a movie for $5,000. They're like, I'm sorry, what? That's not even our coffee money this week.
He had no idea. He was like, Jen, I would be I have no idea.
Right.
Once you do it, let me know. I'd like to know. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, you don't ask Spielberg to produce your short film. I mean, maybe you do if you know him, but that's the thing. Do you know the person?
Sure.
So in any case, I was getting to the end of my list of producers, and you know, when somebody would say no, here's the other thing. I knew the script was really good.
Okay.
I knew the script was really good. I knew my work was really good because after I did Touch. So I wasn't asking for a favor. I was presenting a package that was valuable. Doesn't mean it was a complete package. You know, we needed financing, we needed all these things, but what was there was valuable. And that's something I think is really cool about the film industry is we all need one another. So make that work for you. People look at that need of needing one another and they see it as a negative. It's like, no, somebody needs you too.
Right.
That's great. Whatever level you're at, whether you're making your first shitty short film or you're making a multi-$100 million feature, there is somebody at every level that needs you. Mm-hmm. Your task is to find that person, people. So anyway, while I was looking, this is where the luck came in. These two producers, Mandy Taggart and Adias Roney, New York. I'm in LA. Mm-hmm. They called me out of the blue. And they were like, hi, you know, we're Spring Pictures, and a friend of ours saw your work on the festival circuit. We're looking for up-and-coming female directors. Would love to know if you have anything you want to make.
That generally doesn't happen.
Get the fuck
Who
out
is
of
it? Who is this? Who is this?
I was like, okay. But I will say, like, being a woman in this industry, and this is a challenging thing to say, but you have to be open to paths that are not traditional, mm-hmm. because we're blocked out of the traditional paths. So, so I said yes. And mm-hmm. I was like, actually, I do. Now, I'm not an idiot either. I looked them up. I saw them legitimate,
So you did your due diligence.
I did my due diligence, and I was like, look, I have this film I'm trying to get made. I think it's great. Maybe you'll take a read. They read it. 2 weeks later, I was in New York. We were meeting. And I think a month or two later, we were shooting.
That's insane. It never happens.
It's insane. It never happens. And now I'm frustrated with the world that doesn't happen on a regular basis.
That's like never. Especially your first feature. Never.
Yeah. It was my first feature. It was $1.1 million. We premiered at South by, and we won there. And
you also starred a little actress by the name of Juliet Lewis.
So, here's the thing.
Yes.
She gets so much props for starring in this film, not because, and again, this goes back to how you approach people that you don't know, mm-hmm. not because she was helping me. Mm-hmm. You don't go to a star and say, I think you'll be great in this movie. Of course they'll be great in this movie. That's why they're fucking A-listers.
Right.
They know that.
Right.
But we had something that she was looking for too. Mm. And she responded intensely to the role. And when she and I met, we hit it off. Mm-hmm. And she trusted that I would not make her look like an idiot.
And that also takes an actor who's extremely comfortable in their own skin.
Not only that, it takes a particular type of person. And, mm-hmm. The thing that I absolutely adore and admire about her is she does what the fuck she wants.
Yep.
And not a lot of people do that. And sometimes even fewer women do that. Right. She does, and then when she does it, she commits. When she says yes, she's 100% in. I have so much respect for that. I adore her. Now,
let me ask you a question. How was it? Because I always anytime I talk to directors who are directing a caliber of Juliet's stature.
Yeah.
How do you direct an Oscar nominee? How do you walk in the door and because obviously they can act. So and a lot of people listening, a lot of filmmakers listening, and I'll tell you the answer. I had a director on that directed John Malkovich in a film. And I asked them the same question. He had a great answer, but I want to hear yours first. How do you direct, how do you give notes? How does it work for you? How did it work?
Well, here's the thing. She's an amazing actor. And by the way, that's part of directing is making the right casting decision. Mm-hmm. So once you make that decision, calm down, dude. Most of the job is done. However, it's her character, but it's my movie.
Right.
And directors and directors and actors need one another. They need to know that I'm keeping them in the same movie that we agreed to from the beginning.
It's your job to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I need her to do that. And she needs me to make sure that I'm doing that. So it's not, it doesn't rank or it doesn't matter. All my notes are about are we making the film we said we're making?
Right. And and see, that's a distinction with first time filmmakers that I found that, and myself included, is when you're working with actors, like you don't go to Juliet Lewis and like give her result directing. You know, that's not what you do to her. You know, you don't you don't try to do something like that. You just kind of guide her into the direction. And I think in many ways, at least from my experience working with these actors, I always say, you have this playground. Here are the barriers. It's my job to keep you in those barriers. Well, however you want to get through, as long as we're there, we're good. Would you agree with that?
I think so, but I think you also have to be open to them coming up with something better.
Absolutely.
And look, when I work with any actor, it doesn't matter who. You first talk about what is the film that we're making. What are the characters? You know, you have those discussions. What are we doing? It's just like in a movie, you're setting the rules and then you execute that. So then when I'm on set and I am watching a performance, so, you know, I think about this a lot. I think one of the number one things a director does is don't let anyone lie. Mm-hmm. Don't allow a bullshit performance to go without speaking up. Mm-hmm. Don't allow a prop to come on your set that doesn't make sense with the time period or the character, mm-hmm. or those are lies. Mm-hmm. And that adds up to meaning over the course of your film. And that's what you're there to do, to protect the truth of the film, which interestingly is made up by lots of things that are completely imaginary and fake.
Right. So you're really lying the whole time. But you know what?
Yes, you're lying. But you're lying in service of a truth. So it's okay. Touche.
And by the way, to what the other director said, with John Malkovich, he walked up to John on the first day and said, "John, you obviously can obviously act. You're a fairly good actor, John. How would you like me to direct you?"
Yeah.
Which I thought that, and he's like, "That is a wonderful thing. Thank you for asking." And from that moment on,
and I believe I asked that. Well, the other reason I ask actors that too. I don't say, how would you like me to direct me? How would you like me to direct you? I say, how do you like to work? Mm-hmm. Because every actor is different and every actor needs different things. And the answer to that question may be more useful than you could have ever imagined.
Oh, yeah.
It could be basic from like, I give my best takes on take 2, mm-hmm. or I need 10 takes to warm up, mm-hmm. or I don't like people to look me in the eye when I'm on set, whatever. They will tell you what they need. And that's what you're saying. You're saying, how can I support you in doing the best job that you can do?
And if you don't ask that question, that's where all the headaches, all the drama, all the things happen. And then you've got a Christian Bale situation on set.
Oh, what's a Christian Bale situation?
Didn't you hear him when he blew up at the DP?
You know what? I'll tell you what.
I agree with
people walking actor eyeline.
No, I agree with you. I know, but I agree with you 100%. It was completely the DP's fault. But the point is that, and I'm sure it wasn't just that one moment either. I'm sure that was building and building and building and building.
And you don't know. Look, I wasn't there.
I wasn't there either. I just heard it.
Who knows? He could have been building about something else, and it's this guy that gets it taken out. Who knows?
Who knows what the situation? But that's when drama happens on set. And if you don't like ask like that, you're like, how about if you're the kind of director that only likes to take 2 takes, but they get warmed up at 10? That's probably a good piece of information to have.
That's a problem. You would like to know that in advance. And I think that's the thing is like treat everybody on your set as a professional.
Yes.
If you hired correctly, mm-hmm. you are working with people who are very skilled mm-hmm. and are additive. That's why they're there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now let me ask you a question. What is the major challenges facing indie filmmakers in today's film industry, in your opinion?
So it's such a weird question. I mean, like we have to say like, okay, you're asking that question on January 3rd, 2019, mm-hmm. because I feel like every day the industry is changing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
With Netflix, I got to say, honestly, it's mostly Netflix.
They are. They're a beast.
They're a beast, and there's good things and bad things about that. It means more variety of filmmakers are getting to make films.
Mm-hmm. Budgets are going down, though. Budgets are going down. Money's becoming thinner at a certain level.
Well, and I don't know, like, what is the process? I talked about this the other day on April Wolf's podcast, Switchblade Sisters. We were discussing a movie I love called Under the Skin. And
is that the one with the...
with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I really believe that process dictates product. And what we're seeing right now is this, it's almost like the old school studio system where they're just cranking them out.
Oh, man.
So
yeah,
that's good in some ways. I mean, I would love to make a movie a year. The question is, are we seeing the same filmmakers? Are they able to build and grow and make? I don't know. It's too early.
Right.
If you're working outside of that system, it's easier to get money now than it was a little bit ago, maybe 6 years ago. But here's something new filmmakers don't, I think, understand. The majority of money that's in the indie film system is coming from the same few people. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going after the same money. So unless you're raising it in a really, low budget sort of way, which is people you're competing as well.
With actors, with projects that have bigger actors attached, that have an easier way of recouping their money, genre movies, all sorts of different things.
And every year there's a different trend, So it's like right now the trend is actresses stepping up to direct. Awesome, cool. Sucks for me, But
you are an actress that can direct, but you haven't.
Not a real one. Not like a no. But look, it's all about value. It's all about mitigating risk. Mm-hmm. And if you have a recognizable name topping your film, that's a risk mitigation. So that's a good thing for investors.
Right. And between that and genre and budget, like if you make a $100,000 horror movie with at least one or two names on it, you're going to have a good chance of recouping your money and also making a profit.
I got to say, though, I think that only applies to genre movies.
Right, genre.
Yeah, genre. I used to think, make your movie for as little as you can make it. I'm not so sure. I think that might be wrong advice because here's the thing. If you can get somebody to invest $5 million into a movie, they're going to make it successful.
They have to.
They fucking need that money back.
Yeah.
Rich people can part with $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So when the going gets tough and your film comes out, all of a sudden, it's okay. Let's just.
It's a write-off. It's a write-off. Yeah.
So I think that make your film for as little as possible. I'm not so sure I always agree with that.
It all depends. It all depends on what you're trying to do and what kind of story you're trying to tell and all that kind of good stuff as well. Like, I've made movies that are under $10,000 and I've worked on shows that are, no, I know. And I could tell you all about it off air.
It's a heart attack.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you all about it after we get,
But I have to tell you, the other thing is because I came from commercial production, because that's what I was doing when I was making my money. I always thought a film set was, 60 people. Right. That's how you make a movie.
That's what it is in commercial sets. Yeah.
So when I show up to my little indie film set
with there's 10, 15, 20 people?
30, it's 25, 30 people. I was like,
my God, you're living. Are we a real movie set? So you can't even comprehend shooting a movie with like 3 people.
It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But again, I always tell people this. Everyone has different brushstrokes. Everyone, like there's some people who love to work with no script and love to do complete improv. And I know freaks out. Some people freaks out. Some actors it freaks out. Some people like making 5 movies that cost $10,000 each, and then they can double that money, and all of a sudden they made $50,000 for the year, and they're happy. That's a doable business model. Not for everybody. It worked for Joe Swanberg. I mean, that's what Joe Swanberg did back in the day before he got his Netflix world. It all depends on like.
Hey, I could be totally wrong. We have to have this conversation again in another 10 years. Right. And I'll be like working at Starbucks and you'll be like, see, I told you should have made a $10,000 movie.
Like if you look at like someone like, Michael Bay or Zack Snyder, they can't even wake up for less than $100 million. Like
I look forward to the day that comment is associated with my name.
Exactly right. I don't even get up for less than 100. I can't. How does someone function that way as an artist? I don't understand.
Well, the question about art, that's another thing. I mean, this is the thing. When you're taking money, you have to earn that back.
You have to. It's such a fine line between art and commerce, and I stole this from a friend of mine named Susan Lyons, who says the word show business is out, right? But the word business has twice as many letters as the word show.
That's funny.
And I'm like, that's a great line, because it's true. Because without that business, there ain't no show.
Well, look, here's the thing. If you want to make, I don't know what. And by the way, that thing that I'm being disparaging about might be fucking genius.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But you don't get to have $20 million to make it. That's all.
That's exactly. And I always tell people that I'm like, look, if you want to go do art, you can't make art with $10 million. Like that doesn't. Even Martin Scorsese it took him years to get the money for Silence. I mean, literally over a decade.
Something I think about a lot that I think this is kind of speaking to is a lot of people start in the industry and say, I want to be a director, or I want to be a producer, I want to be a writer. You need to be way more specific than that. What kind of director do you want to be? There's a big difference between, Michael Bay and Julian Schnabel.
Right.
There is. Those are different directors.
Yes.
Those are different careers.
Oh,
Those are different perspectives, everything. Do you want to be a television director?
That's a whole other world.
A whole other world. Oh, are you going to be a television director? Okay, you're doing scripted, you're doing non-scripted. You're doing single cam, you're doing multicam.
You're doing sitcom, the drama. It's absolutely. You have to be very specific.
Totally different roots and totally different skill sets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without question. It's interesting. It's interesting to see. You're right. Like Michael Bay and Joe Swanberg, or Mark Duplass, it's like, exact, completely different world. Now I want to ask you something that I have not asked a female director before. And I think this is when I want to kind of get into it a little bit with this, because I feel that you're going to give some insanely good answers. No pressure. We all hear about diversity. We all hear about giving females, better opportunity, female directors, minorities more, because it actually opens up the palette of cinema. It opens up the palette of television and of stories that are being put out there. I do feel that has changed dramatically in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
and it's
very recently.
Very, very recently. And right. We'll see how long it sticks. But for right now, like, it is starting to move in that direction, at least here in America. What are some of the challenges that females directors have to deal with in this business that a male director like myself, I am a minority director, I'm Cuban, and I've had to deal with other things. But as a female director, how does that, what are the things that we as outside of being a female director have no idea that you guys deal with?
So it's a tricky question to answer because I can only speak really from my experience.
Fair enough.
And for example, women in film groups, so a lot of people talk about their experiences, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't have that particular problem, but I have this particular problem. And that's kind of the challenge of talking about any group as a group, is
right.
that it's made up of all these individuals.
Sure.
So what I can say, so there's like systemic issues, individual issues, and sometimes those overlap. Sometimes systemic issues affect you personally, and sometimes the way you are personally contributes to systemic issues. For me, I think people expect me to be a little warmer than I am when I'm working. It's like I have a job to do. I need to do my work.
Right.
I think now that comes from my background, from how I learned to make movies. I learned to make film on massive commercial shoots.
Right.
the director would speak to their heads of departments, and that's kind of it. It's not a rudeness. There's a lot of fucking people,
it's being professional. You have a lot of budget
in that environment. That's what I'm used to.
Right.
So, in an indie film world, my expectation doesn't match the world. My expectation is I tell you what I want, it appears. In an indie film world, sometimes there's follow-up questions.
Or sometimes it just doesn't show up.
Or it doesn't show up. And it's like, wait a minute.
Didn't I ask for that 2 hours ago?
Do words come out of my mouth and then not appear? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But that again, that has to do with me specifically and my background specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I hear some women talk about, disrespect from the crew. I don't have that. However, that's because I work in indie film and I hire my crew.
Right.
And
it's not like you walked on a set. Yeah, it's not like you just walked on a TV set or something like that.
That's right. And that's a totally different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of compassion for women who work in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, the biggest problem is that women are perceived as a risk of some sort that needs to be mitigated against.
Mm-hmm.
It's silly.
It is.
So that is the undercurrent that we work in.
Interesting. Because we just lost one of the most successful female directors, Penny Marshall, which she made two of my favorite films of all time. Well, actually, she did Awakenings as well. I love Awakenings, but League of Their Own, I still think it's one of the best. I still think it's one of the best baseball movies ever made. Period.
It's a great movie.
Such an amazing movie, and I challenge anyone to watch it and not cry a little bit at the end.
See, but okay, what women filmmakers are making movies like that now? Now, to be fair, we don't really make movies like that now.
Well, period. Yeah, a movie like that would not be made in today's studio system. It just wouldn't. It'd be very difficult to. And Penny did have a little bit of juice because she just got off Big, which was the biggest. She was the first female director to make $100 million, which was amazing. And then she got, League of Their Own right afterward. So she had a little juice coming in behind her. And from what I've studied about her, Gary didn't help a whole lot. Her big producer brother, he said it. She said it in an interview. She's like, look, Gary came up to me. He's like, I'm not going to risk my career for you. So straight up, he said that straight up.
Tell you something funny about that.
Yeah.
My husband does television. He does nonfiction television. He has his own production company.
Uh-huh.
I cannot tell you how many things I come up with and pitch to him. And there's this one show I've pitched to him. And he's like, I don't get it. I was like, that's fine. I just need to be clear that you're passing because I am going to take this to one of your competitors and get it made.
Uh-huh.
Are you going to be okay with that? And he's like, oh, well, maybe I need to read it again.
But when I heard that, he's like, I'm not going to risk my career for you. So you got to come in and knock it out yourself. Yeah. It was extremely interesting. Now, but do you think the industry is giving more opportunities now to not only to women, but also to minorities in general?
In certain areas,
mm-hmm.
I think it's really wonderful that there is actual research being done on this now,
mm-hmm.
because in the past, an interviewer would ask somebody like me this, and we'd say, yeah, I think it's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's based on my very subjective, singular experience.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is we can look at numbers because of the research being done at USC Annenberg by Stacy Smith and
mm-hmm.
Martha Lausen at San Diego, and see that in big budget feature films, it's not changing.
No, because they don't. It's because of the risk mitigation that you're talking about. Even someone like Catherine Bigelow, who could rocket like the best. James Cameron said it best. He's like, she kicks ass as an action director more than most boys. It's true, and she's having.
Well, look at who. The few women that get to do stuff like that. Why do they get to do it? Because they're Lexi Alexander. They're a fucking Olympic whatever. In the meantime, these schlubby fucking guys get to do
exactly.
They've not been to the gym in a year, and they're directing fucking I don't know, action, kung fu, whatever.
Right.
We have to be an expert in the topic as well. We can't just be directly think some of this is because people do not, even in our business, know what a director does.
Right.
They think it's magic. It's not magic.
It's
not magic.
It's a skill. It's experience.
Yeah. But they don't believe that. They think it's magic.
And, and I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I ever got is like casting is 90% of a directing job, as well as casting your crew, hiring good people
Absolutely.
around you who who are much more skilled in those arenas than you are. You know, arguably the only two directors that I know of that even people who've worked for them said that, you know what, these guys are probably better at what we do than we even are, is Kubrick and
maybe Soderbergh.
Soderbergh too. That's a third one, and Cameron. And because these guys are they're freaks of nature. They're just outliers. But it's very true. And
yeah. Well, so you know what? But that's a good point, because we like to elevate the what is that word in math? It's like the odd thing, the fluke.
Yes.
We like to elevate the fluke and then make decisions
based on
that. That's crazy.
So this brings me to another topic, which I always love to talk about, the lottery ticket mentality. So the lottery ticket mentality is, who do they show at every lottery drawing? The winner. They don't show the billions of people who lost. So the mentality of the El Mariachi story, Robert Rodriguez, Tarantino's mythical story, Kevin Smith, Spike Lee.
Yeah, we tell those stories because we like those stories.
Richard Linklater. Those guys are like, oh, they made the little short film and they did this, or Paranormal Activity that was made for $30,000. And I love anytime I see a prospectus or an investment packet. Every single time.
Like, you guys, that's not repeatable.
It's like, look, Blair Witch made. I'm like, Blair Witch was 20 years ago. Why is this
thing too
on the perspective? And then they're like, well, Easy Rider was like, Easy Rider? Are you kidding me? Because that was an independent movie back in 1970 something.
The thing is, like, you have to know, I really think you have to know the business. I personally like the business. I enjoy the business. Yeah. I like the people that populate the business. I think that contributes to some of my luck, frankly. Mm-hmm. If you have trouble, if you don't like people and you don't like the industry.
But still want to be rich and famous.
I'm sorry. Why do I give you money when,
I think it's so important, and if any filmmaker listening to this right now really needs to understand that you got to understand the business. The business is not sexy. It is not the sexy part. Lenses are sexy. Cameras are sexy. Being on set with big stars is sexy. But when it's pouring out and you're on your 14th hour and you're over budget and you're going into OT that day, and if you don't understand what's going on, and then your actor's giving you problems and your DP's giving you like, I need another 3 hours because I need to set this shot up. I'm like, dude, just shoot the damn shot. This is not Oscar winning right now, guys. Let's just move it along.
Okay. So this is one of the things that drives me bananas. Whenever they talk about, to get back to women in film, whenever they talk about women in film, they're like, they're not good enough. Okay. Bullshit.
That's like, bullshit. But what kind of comment is that?
But what doesn't matter what kind of
comment.
It's
such a broad comment.
The point is, our industry is made of like, 1% Oscar winning films?
Right.
I'm sorry. How many Oscar-winning films did you make this year, Mr. Employee or Employer? I'm fine. I'm good enough for what you're making.
Right. They always set you up like, well, Spielberg or Fincher or Soderbergh did this, and just like, why are you?
There are lots of other directors making lots of other stuff.
Right. And doing what I do now, I've met a lot of them. I've spoken to a lot of them. I interviewed a lot of them. And the more you realize, like, again, it's that fluke mentality. They just it's just easier. It's easier because you can wrap your head around Kubrick.
It makes you feel good. I mean, look, this is why we tell stories to begin with.
Right.
We tell stories to either validate our own experience or, make us feel a certain way, inspired, happy, sad, whatever. But that's also why I think who makes stories is very important, because when we're telling ourselves stories, which are essential, storytelling has been from the dawn of man, we were telling ourselves stories. So clearly it's important. I'm not a sociologist. I don't know why, but it's important. So if your story is about, what is that phrase about two blind men grab an elephant, one grabs the tusk and one, it's like, guys, if we keep telling the same stories from the same perspectives, we are doing a disservice to ourselves and to our audiences because we're not telling the full picture.
Because that's not a reflection of the world we live in.
It's not a reflection of the world we live in. And, it doesn't, if stories are helping us figure out who we are, who we were, and who we're going to be, when we leave out entire groups of the population, is it any wonder that we have difficult relationships with those groups? Or
even worse, villainizing them.
Totally.
I mean, you can't see an action movie without a foreign villain. With an English accent. Obviously, all bad guys are English. Obviously, if you watch,
we've got some Russians now. Russians are coming back.
They're coming back. But for the longest time, and even still today, like it's always the British accent. I don't know what is about a British accent that they thought is like that's obviously a villain. To American audiences,
no. So I have a theory about the American-British relationship, and
in cinema or in general.
General.
Oh wow. Okay.
It I think contributes to that. They are the only population or country on the planet.
Before you continue, I have a big English audience. Just throwing it out there.
They'll appreciate that.
Okay, good.
That Americans are deferential to.
Okay.
What other group, whatever, would we allow to judge all of our baking shows, judge all of our dancing shows, come and tell our president that it's okay to invade another country? We give them such respect. I think it's because we come from them.
I think I guess that's a very good theory. That's a good theory. It's a good theory.
One other country on the planet. Could you imagine Americans going, yes,
Spain,
so Mexico, or
Spain, or France,
Greece.
Yeah, or Greece. Well,
the British are the only ones to look up to.
Well, and that's why we make them villains in every single
we got to get our arms back.
We got to get our arms back a little bit. Now, I wanted to also talk about mentorship. And I think there's something so important. And I know a lot of young filmmakers don't understand this because it's not the same as it used to be with the apprentice and the master kind of relationship, which was so wonderful. That was one of the wonderful parts of the old studio system and old Hollywood, because you would come in, work under a master in that field and apprentice under them to learn a craft. And nowadays there is not much of that left. No. And also, this generation coming up, and even just first-time filmmakers or younger filmmakers, they don't understand the value of talking to somebody who's walked that path and it has the wounds, has the scars to prove it.
And also understands the industry.
Right.
Getting back to what we said, like you could be a brilliant filmmaker, but if you cannot communicate your ideas to your team to execute, forget it. If you don't understand why the producer is asking you to put something in, if it really doesn't hurt the film, put it in.
It's called politics.
No, really.
It is. It is.
I've talked to two people in the last 6 months. One's an actress, one's a DP. And they said similar things to what you're saying right now. The actress said, I don't understand. In the last couple of years, the DPs are running the sets. What is going on? And I was talking to my friend who's a DP, and this person said, I just did the show, and like this director didn't even know how to set blocking marks, like didn't know what a blocking rehearsal was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's a lack of respect, going back to the idea of this is magic, that you're talented, so therefore you're a director. The lack of this being a professional skill, I think. Not having an apprenticeship contributes to that. I think this might be the bad side of the coin of everybody having a camera in their hand when they're two. There's lots of great things about it, but this might be be one of the not so great things about it.
No, without question. And you also you're part of a program that does mentorship for female directors, correct?
Are you talking about We for She?
Yes.
So We for She is a program that I am a mentee in.
Okay.
A very wonderful director, Mary Lou Belli, is basically vouching for me.
Okay.
The program is to get women directors who have not directed episodic television their first job directing episodic. And the way they do it is they choose 8 or 9 directors, and each of those directors has a bigger director vouching for them. Basically, she's acting as my insurance. I am eternally grateful because the first class of directors that went through this program, the first 9 who had never directed a single episode of television, I think in 2 years have directed combined 65 episodes.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's huge.
It's
huge for culture. It's huge for those women's pocketbooks, which means their families. It's huge. And it's one of these programs that doesn't get a ton of press, but it's extremely effective. So I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
That's amazing. And episodic TV is very lucrative if you get into it. It's kind of like a closed off club. It's such a closed off club because it's a lot of people that don't know the industry is like a lot of people like when we go into direct TV, it's like you're walking into a really well-oiled machine normally, and you're in there and you just kind of slide in, and then you just do your thing. It's not like you're going to create these insane new shots. If it doesn't go with the style of the show,
that's right,
it's out. So it's fairly a little bit, and I'm not going to say the word easier than directing a feature film. It's different.
It's different.
And
my understanding is you do not work consistently until you have done 3 or 4 episodes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because it's also because it's such a lucrative thing, and those because there's only 15 episodes a season if you're lucky. You know, the long 25 episode there are out there, but they're rare.
I know, and the showrunner or the EP directs half of them.
Right, and then then they have to like you. So it's like literally I've talked to TV directors, like if you've got a good personality and the cast likes you, because the cast is so powerful on those kind of shows, especially the higher, the leads and the EP, if they like you, like, you know what, Jen's kind of cool, let's bring her back, she was really cool to work with. But if you have an attitude and you're not
which is so funny because I feel like sometimes the indie film world rewards not the wrong things, but what the indie film world rewards directors for is not always what the studio and network world is looking for in directors.
Oh, absolutely not. I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
Which is unfortunate because we think that indie film is training ground, is the road to. I don't know.
No. Indie film is, I think, a road to either building your own career and doing your own films is one.
Like a shit ton of debt is what
chasing your own money, building a production company, doing a business. I mean, there's that, or it could leapfrog you into a studio film. Kind of like what Ryan Coogler did with Black Panther, and because that was an indie movie, but that's a big indie movie, but it's still an indie movie, and that kind of catapults him into, and now he's in the stratosphere after that movie, and that's what happens. Like Soderbergh. Soderbergh did Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and then
but when Soderbergh did Sex, Lies, and Videotape, that was 20 years ago.
No, 30. It was 89.
Oh, God.
We're getting old. 30 years ago, it was 89. It was 80. We're getting. You look like you're 25. I look like I'm 55. So I appreciate that.
But that was a very different time.
Oh,
I mean,
the studios had no idea what to do. They were like, what? And then wasn't it amazing though? Let's talk real quickly about the 90s. The 90s.
We're gonna reminisce about.
But I have to reminisce about the 90s because, and I was in high school and college during the 90s. So it was like
fucking awesome.
The 90s were amazing, and for the film industry, people listening who weren't around at that time, basically Soderbergh started it off. And Sundance became Sundance.
Sundance, yeah.
Sundance became Sundance in '89, really, because before it was like the USA Film Festival, and it kind of. But that's the moment where it became Sundance, was with Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Yeah. Then every year there was a new, just prodigy that show up. So Robert Rodriguez, Linkletter, Tarantino, Kevin Smith.
Anything that Christine Vachon touched.
Yes, I mean, exactly. All these filmmakers who just start showing up, and a handful of them have kept. A lot of them just fell off.
But think about the difference between then and now.
But there's not as much competition.
This is not just the criticism of Sundance. Any of the film festivals that have any influence, I don't know what the percentages are, but how many of those are coming already with distribution?
Oh, yeah. Back then it wasn't. Back then there was very little of that.
It was nothing. It was absolutely indie film. And then the studios caught on and they're like, whoop.
Fox Searchlight. Yeah. Sony Classics. All of a sudden.
Is this good for our PR campaign for our Oscars?
Yes, let's do this.
Film festival thing.
How much do you want? $3 million. Take it.
Take it.
It was a wonderful time. And then I towards the end of the 90s and when we got into the 2000s, everything changed. But that was a really interesting time for it started the independent film movement because technology had finally caught up. And
but also keep in mind at that time, that was like the beginning of gay cinema being popular.
Yeah. Greg Araki.
So there was something unique for that
audience
medium to bring two audiences. Mm-hmm. Like Sundance was and still is in a lot of ways the heart of gay cinema. Cinema now,
transgender, all of that, absolutely.
But it's not as novel now. But at the time, it was like mind blowing. What is this? Mm-hmm. So it was a real leader in cultural conversation.
It's not as because before, like at that time, we there was no internet. There wasn't as much media hitting us.
I remember applying to Sundance on a form that they had to mail you, and you mail it back.
And you would send your VHS?
I don't remember.
VHS or DVD, one of the two.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a different time, but now there's so much more competition. Like this year, 14,200 submissions to Sundance.
Okay. However, half of those were probably fucking horrible.
Well, of course. But still 7,000 good films.
Even if it's only 7,000, that's a big job for screeners.
Yeah.
So that explains why they're nurturing relationships more. They're looking to their labs more. They're overwhelmed.
Right, and it is, and also I think a lot of ways. Sundance, South by, Tribeca. There's a handful that actually mean there's a monetary value attached to being in the festivals.
Five in North America.
Yeah, Toronto, those kind of places. Telluride, those kind of things that actually mean anything for a distributor. But their influence is not nearly as powerful as it was in the 90s. Like Sundance is still Sundance. Yeah, culturally and look, Sundance is still Sundance, but I've worked on Sundance films. I know a lot of.
You're right about that.
Well, no, but listen, I've worked with Sundance winners, so understand. I've interviewed Sundance winners. I've worked on Sundance films and I've seen it from the inside. Before you would get into Sundance and you were off, you were done. Yes. Harvey, lack of a better term, Harvey would show up
Yes.
Harvey, Miramax would show up with a check.
With the lucky stick.
With the lucky stick. You've come down from the mountain. You've been anointed. You now can come and direct. But it would literally be almost everybody that would get in would have automatic in. Now, maybe one or two of them, 3, 4 out of the festival will get that kind of treatment if their film is like.
Yeah,
insane.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think those would be interesting numbers to see. I think that would, because we filmmakers tell ourselves tales about these things. I think those would be interesting numbers to look at. But I do know that in terms of the conversation, the strategy is like, do we really want to premiere there? Because are we going to be able to raise a butt?
No, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And then they're all fighting for the best films, and it's a whole
the best programming, and then it's like.
And then if this film, where am I going to get the most love? Am I going to get it at Sundance, at South by, at Tribeca? Who's going to give me the most love?
I'll tell you what is handy about that for people to understand is that comes to the point of understanding your audience. You know, each of those festivals is an audience. Each of those festivals has taste.
Yes.
It has a specific brand. You're an idiot if you don't inform yourself about those things.
So like a genre film will probably have a better chance at South by than it does at Sundance, depending on what it is.
Generally, yes. I mean, obviously there are exceptions to everything. If your genre film has Brad Pitt in it, it's going wherever the fuck you enter it, you know?
I remember watching Old Boy at Sundance with the director and it was just the most amazing, and that was a midnight movie, and it was the most amazing experience ever because no one knew anything about that movie. You've seen that, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Oh, it was such a
that was what year was that? Because
2004, 2005 or 6 or 7, one of those times. It was in that year.
I could be wrong about this, but you would know. Did they always have the midnight?
No, they didn't have. No, that was something that they added later because they started. It's new, yeah, and like Toronto has the midnight showings, and it became a thing. It became a thing.
Yeah.
To get other kinds of films in that they would not normally get, and now they have the Sundance Next show or there's another category of like films.
And they have interactive and they have television and it's a lot.
It's definitely a lot. Now I want to talk about your latest film real quick, which is Russ Creek.
Yes.
I haven't had the pleasure of seeing the film yet because no one sent me a trailer. But I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. No one sent me nothing. I'm just saying, I'm messing with you, Karen. I'm messing with you, Karen.
Under the bus.
Karen is no, I'm joking. But I did see the trailer and it looks fantastic. I get sent trailers every day. Every day I get sent trailers. And it's a rarity that I want to see an indie movie. Like, it's because it's just generally the trailer's not well put together, or it's just like, it's not that interesting.
Or you've seen it before.
Or we've seen it before. Your film, which you'll talk about in a second, I would not mind watching that. Like, I wouldn't mind watching that.
Poster.
Alex Ferrari said, I wouldn't mind watching it. Not bad.
I always think it's really funny because I have a dark sense of humor that you can work your ass off for years. Sure. Blood, sweat, and tears into a movie. Mm-hmm. It premieres, and there's somebody in the audience that's going to go,
Well, because they have no idea, and we're so bombarded with media that they don't understand what it takes to actually put something on that screen. But no, but in all honesty,
it doesn't matter to the audience.
All joking aside, it does look phenomenal. So please tell the audience what it's about and any interesting stories behind it.
Yes. So the film is called Russ Creek. It opens in New York at IFC Center tomorrow, January 4th.
Nice.
And then it opens a bit wider, so select cities January 11th, and it'll be on demand as well. It's going out through IFC Midnight. There's two answers to the question, what is the film about? The first is about plot. So it's about a young woman in her last year of college in Kentucky. She gets a job interview in DC over Thanksgiving break. And, she's kind of type A, so she doesn't want to tell anybody in case she doesn't get the job. In order to get there, she has to drive through Appalachia, and shit goes down.
Got it.
So that's the plot. For me, what it is about is it's about the hope, that you feel as a young woman coming out of school. You think all you need to do to be a grown-up is get a job in an apartment. And actually, you need to take the whole system down.
Interesting.
That's interesting to me, and that's what when I'm looking for movies, I'm always thinking, can I make something interesting out of this that the audience will enjoy? Mm-hmm. Can I keep myself interested for the 2 years? And that's on this. This is a project that I pitched on. I interviewed for, and I was hired to direct it.
That's excellent, which are rare nowadays. These open assignments for directors are a rarity in general, so that you got it. Yeah. That's a testament to you.
Because I really want to be that old school director that I go in and I pitch and I don't have to write. I love the process of bringing a script to life.
Mm-hmm. That's your job. But that's your job. You're a director. That's what we do.
More and more, they want you to be a writer, director, and I don't find that as interesting.
And now you have to be a writer, director, actor, or actress. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, not happening.
And any interesting stories of making it? Because I'm assuming Appalachia it's wonderful, sunny all the time. It's wonderful all the time as far as weather is concerned. So anything go wrong? Well, let me ask you a better question. What was your biggest let me ask you a better question. What is the most challenging thing that happened to you on the set of making that film?
Honestly, this is probably the same answer as to the previous question, which was weather. Mm-hmm. We were shooting in Kentucky between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Mm-hmm. Kentucky weather, which I did not know, notoriously moody in that, the beginning of the day can be 40 degrees, the end of the day can be 80 degrees, and there's a rainstorm for 5 minutes in the middle. We had every type of weather. It was extremely cold. We had days where it was 7 degrees. We were primarily shooting outside. We were shooting in water. One day we were rushed to the basement of a building because there was a tornado coming. It was, the weather was quite challenging. Not Southern California film stable weather.
Oh God. Yeah. I forget because we live here and it's hard to, when you go outside of the state, you're just like, is that a storm cloud? And you look up and you forget what they look like.
What I really forget is the bone-chilling colds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
There's a huge difference between 32 and 7.
Oh, huge.
It hurts.
When it's so cold, it hurts. That's just God telling you need to leave.
Yeah, go inside. We invented heaters for a reason.
Just go. You shouldn't be outside. And then also, you're also part of a website called Film Powered. That's your site?
That's my site. I created that.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I started Film Powered 3 years ago with the goal of then, and still the goal now, of increasing gender parity, working towards gender parity in the industry across the board. So it is a membership of vetted professional women in film and television, from script to criticism. So the members are writers, directors, lawyers, crew, film critics, distributors. It's international. Mm-hmm. It is free. And what it is peer-to-peer classes, social events, and jobs. Because what I realized working up the ladder is that the higher I got up the ladder, the more isolated I was becoming. The more frequently I was the only one in the room, unless I was insisting on hiring in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And you hire the people that you know. So it becomes a reinforcing phenomenon, where if you're surrounded by guys on this project, you're probably going to be surrounded by guys on the next project. By the way, nothing wrong with guys. Mm-hmm. I have worked with a lot of great guys, and there's a lot of great guys that worked on Russ Creek. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing wrong with women either. Right. And they are skilled and professional and deserve a job and deserve to be paid and deserve to be held up to the standards that everybody else is.
Fair enough. Now I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all of my guests.
Okay.
What advice would you give a filmmaker wanting to break into the business today?
Today. That's the important part of the question, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not 1991, not 1977.
No. 1977.
I'm not going to jump on the Universal tour and then jump off and open up a little
know, bullshit.
I got my and this is, by the way, for people who don't know this story, there's a Spielberg story where he jumps off, he finds an office somewhere, sets up shop, and starts making deals for like 6 weeks until someone finds out who he is, and then Sid Sheinberg gives him a 7-year directing contract.
Yeah, because that's how reality works. All right. Nice story.
Yes.
So, look, I think you need to find your people.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to make stuff. And I think you need to test that stuff out on people who are not your family. Mm-hmm. Test it out on people who don't like or dislike you. Gotcha. They just want to see stuff.
Got it.
And then do it again and do it again and do it again. And in the meantime, you need to sustain yourself as a human being, which means you need to have a job that pays you money so you can pay your rent. You need to take care of yourself. All of these things are important if you're going to sustain long enough for the time that it takes to turn it into a real career.
Yeah, it's a long-term play. It's not a short-term play.
No. And if you're lucky, hallelujah, you got hit with the lucky stick. chances are that's not going to happen. So I wouldn't depend on it.
Right. If you have a 6-month plan, you're probably not going to make it.
Yeah.
You need a 6-year plan.
Yeah, you're probably wasting 6 months, quite frankly. Go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you should have a 6-year plan. A 10-year plan is what I always suggest to people. Now, can you tell me what book had the biggest impact on your life or career?
Tell me again, you broke up.
Can you tell me what book had the biggest impact on your life or career?
Oh. So, because we spoke about the 90s, I used to read, it was called Shooting to Kill. Mm-hmm. That was the Killer Films book. And she did another one, which is on my bookshelf, and I cannot remember. Basically, Christine Vachon of Killer Films had this book about indie filmmaking.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was phenomenal.
Okay.
I haven't read it in a very long time, so I don't know if it's any good.
But at that time, mind-blowing.
At the time, it was very transformative.
What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
Probably, I don't know. I'm so many lessons. I tend to need to calm down a little bit.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm actually have to fix you in post because you're very unanimated. So I'm going to have to bring you up in post.
Right. Yeah, I get really impatient. Like I want things to happen now. And it's hard for me to like take a moment and not feel like I'm wasting my whole life.
Fair enough. And 3 of your favorite films of all time.
Okay. So I love E.T.
Okay. Great movie.
I love The Ice Storm.
Oh, that was a good movie. Yeah.
There's so many.
Just today. What comes to your mind today?
I hate this question. There's so many. This is a really like douchey film school answer, but I love 3 Colors Blue.
Oh, nice. Just blue or all 3 colors?
Blue is my favorite.
If I remember, red is my favorite. I love red. I personally love red. I love blue too. Blue's good. And anyone who doesn't know that movie is by Krzysztof Kieslowski. Kieslowski, who was an amazing director. Yeah. The Decalogue, Double Life of Veronique is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
He was a wonderful. Did you ever see Cameraman?
Yes. Wait, the documentary?
No, it was him. A movie that he made. It was like I went deep into Kieslowski when I was in film school, and that's why
I said it's kind of a douchey film school answer. But wait, so which one was Cameraman?
It was a guy who take photos. It was it might have been a short, but I'm almost positive it was a feature.
I feel like I've seen it, but I'm going to say no because I can't speak to it.
Okay,
I don't. Yeah.
Now I'm just gonna ask if you've ever seen this movie. I haven't spoken to many people who have seen this movie, but it is a Criterion Collection film, and it's called
I'm nervous.
It's called Man Bites Dog.
Who did that?
A couple of I don't remember if they were Swedish directors. It was a team. I've never heard of them again since, but now you have to look it up. But
I know. Did you see my hand?
Yeah. I saw the hand just move over. So I was like, oh, she's looking it up. Man Bites Dog, which is about a documentary team following a serial killer.
Okay. That's why I thought it was a documentary.
But it's a mockumentary.
It's
a mockumentary kind of.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's an obscure one from you. Did you ever see the movie? I want to say
I love that we're film geeking out here. I love it. I love that we're film geeking.
I have to say, this is actually one of my weaknesses. I am not a great film. Like, I don't have a good film knowledge because of my path that I took.
Sure.
There was this film called, I want to say it's the I don't know if the film was called this or, The 5 Obstructions. Did you see that?
No, I did not see The 5 Obstructions.
It's kind of awesome.
All right. I'll put it on my list.
Oh my God. I'm going to send you my list. I'm going to send you my master list.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad. You see, this is what happens when film geeks get together. We just start talking and talking. It's been an absolutely amazing interview. Thank you so much. I want to ask one last question. Where can people find you, your work, websites, and anything else about your films?
Cool. So you can find me on my website, which is jenmcgowan.com. Mm-hmm. You can find Filmpowered at www.filmpowered.com. Mm-hmm. I'm on Twitter at IamJenMcG. And my movie Russ Creek can be seen in theaters and on demand starting January 4th.
Fantastic. And I'll put all those links in the show notes. Jen, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your
so fun. Thank you for having me.
Your raw honesty and dropping some major knowledge bombs on the tribe today. So thanks again.